All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for attending and listening to this. This is the Active Minds podcast. This week, we are going to be discussing the effects of substances and alcohol and compared to mental health. Today, we will have our guest speakers, Thaddeus Rybka and John Finsrud. He is our member of our recovery community with almost 5 years of sobriety. He's coming up on his anniversary date this May. He's a senior majoring in addiction counseling, wanting to work with adults through their recovery. With a GPA of 3.5, so he's absolutely doing great. He's from South Minneapolis. He spent 8 years living in Texas, and he currently lives here in St. Cloud and is looking to become a bigger part of the community. And for Thaddeus' introduction, I'll pass it on over to Sam.
So Thaddeus Rybka is a recovery community coordinator at St. Cloud State. He began working with the community as a graduate student, coming from a successful undergraduate experience in the recovery community at Oxford College. After graduating with his Master's of Business Administration, he returned to work as a coordinator of the program. The recovery resource is located in Eastman Hall and provides a safe space and supportive space for students at St. Cloud State and St. Cloud Technical Community College in recovery or seeking recovery support. And then we actually did a previous podcast episode with Thaddeus, which we can link in the bio if you wanted to learn a little bit more about Thaddeus and recovery.
Should we go around and introduce the rest of us?
I believe so. I guess I'll start off because I didn't go too into depth. My name's Aaron Sadlow. I'm one of the co-presidents of Active Minds. My fellow co-president, Alexis, is absent this week, so I'm taking the reins on this. I am a senior. I'm a psychology and Spanish major.
Yeah, so I'm Sam. I'm in the College Counseling Student Development Master's Program here at St. Cloud State, and then I have a graduate assistantship with Healthy Huskies. So through that, I've been able to work with Active Minds and has a role as a co-advisor with Charlene.
And I'm Julian Gallego. I'm a first year clinical mental health counseling student and a GA for our department. I'm also an advocate of Active Minds and really looking forward to seeing how trauma is in connection to, say, addictions, because our program, we're trauma-based, and so learning kind of the connection.
All right, and my name is Charlene Hanisch-Tyson. I am the co-advisor of Active Minds, and we are going into or finishing our 10th year. So really, really exciting to be a part of this, a part of this chapter and student organization. I'm also a therapist in the Counseling and Psychological Services office here in Eastman Hall, 3rd floor. So glad everyone can join us, and particularly John and Thaddeus. Thank you so much for attending.
Yeah, I just had a little bit of statistics about college students and illicit drug use. More than one half, or about 54.4% of full-time college students have used an illicit drug at least once in their lifetime, and more than 4 in 10 have used one at least once in the past year. And nearly 1 in 4 have used one in the past month. So these numbers are increasing, and especially in this past year during the pandemic, we have seen these numbers get worse, and it's been harder for these people to really get the help that they need. And so that's what we're trying to raise awareness on and really learn more about today.
So, and then before I move on to John, Thaddeus, is there anything else that, in terms of, not to put you on the spot, but any statistics regarding St. Cloud State that come to your mind about what you found over this last year with the pandemic?
Well, I think those numbers are yet to be determined. With high-risk drinking, especially, we keep track of those numbers through the student health survey every 2 years. So I believe, I think it's next year we do the other one, but I could go and try to whip up some things. One thing off the top of my head, and this is in general for really all colleges across the board, alcohol is still the most misused substance on a college campus, and college students misuse alcohol more than their peers, and then followed by marijuana. Marijuana is more misused by non-college students, actually. And then amphetamines. So basically synthetic methamphetamine, your Adderall, Ritalin, it's probably, from what my research, is the third most misused substance. I think students think by taking that drug, they're smarter, they can get more done, but you could drink a pot of coffee and the same effect of it. So, but as far as within our student body, a lot of those numbers are in our student health survey. Our high-risk drinking numbers have been dropping. It would be interesting to see if they rose a bit with COVID. But yeah, it's for at least the last 5 years, our high-risk drinking numbers have been dropping. We're below the national average with our high-risk drinking numbers, so we're not a party school anymore. That's a stigma that the university has. This notion that we're wild and crazy, St. Cloud State, but we've done a lot of great work on campus to address that. And Mankato can take that from us now, but maybe a little too soon since we just beat them last night. So, but no,
Never too soon.
That's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Thaddeus. And absolutely go Huskies, right?
Yeah.
So, and I happen to have a Huskies soccer t-shirt on, so that's all I got. So anyway, so thank you for that information, Thaddeus. You are definitely the expert here on campus, and we really appreciate you, and we turn to you for a lot of things, and we'll give you more time to talk a little bit about what you do and the recovery community on campus. Before that, though, let's turn to John. So John, welcome. Well, we also talk about in terms of being, in the know, and just being, I don't know, just the person who have been there, done that, lived the life, survived it, and has been sober for almost 5 years. I mean, that is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. And to maintain that in the middle of a pandemic. And I know, John, you're going to speak to this about the importance of routine. Something where you get up in the morning and you go to class and you do your homework, and recovery is all about routines and getting out there. And then the pandemic goes completely against that and wipes that away. So I'm going to certainly open up the door to you to speak about that. But first, let's talk about, since this podcast is about recovery, the struggles, the triumphs, the successes, the challenges, and then also mental health, because it often, if not always, gets tied and kind of connected to recovery, as well as our challenges, and they go very much hand in hand. So I'm going to hand it to you, John. I'll start with, can you talk a little about your own personal struggles with addiction, kind of starting from back then and then moving forward to kind of where you're at today in your recovery, both chemically and emotionally?
Well, my substance use, mainly marijuana and alcohol to begin with, started in the 70s as a teenager. And it was not coincidental that that's when my first struggles with my mental health were beginning.
So about how old were you around that time?
13, 14.
Okay. Was there anything, and I don't want to, have you share more than you want, but just thinking about the listeners, like what were some of the stressors? If you look back now in your wise mind, your wisdom, what were some of the challenges that you were facing that kind of led you down that path?
I lost the primary mentor support that I had at the time. My sister graduated from high school and moved off out of state to college. My father was an alcoholic and was not a regular, dependable part of our lives, and it was less so after. I think he took her departure badly too. She's always been a big part of all of our lives, and that was a big part of.
So that support, that
Yes.
that kind of that base, seemed like be the rock of the family for you.
And my brother is 9 years older, and I think he made a lame attempt at trying to step up at one point, but he came across as more authoritarian than authoritative.
So how many years do you feel that, as you go through life and you think back, I would imagine you kind of lost a part of who you are or who you were.
Yes.
What was that journey like from that loss of a significant person in your life? And not that she passed away, but she was no longer actively involved or at least present in your life on a daily basis. So it was a change. And then all the way through your heavy times of using, and I would imagine, I know sometimes there's recovery and then there's relapse and then there's recovery and many attempts. Did you ever go through attempts of recovery, both chemically and mental health wise?
Well, I'm certain that my anxiety and depression were beginning to manifest then. I started skipping school and completely isolated, cut myself off from friends, and we didn't really. I mean, in the 70s, we didn't talk about these things, and I knew something was wrong, but I had no idea what. I didn't know how to explain it. My mother and my brother would ask, well, what's wrong with you? I don't know.
Back then, they didn't know that was not an okay question. They didn't know how to ask the questions because mental health and chemical, it doesn't, it's not that there's something wrong with you, that there's just something going on that you didn't have control over.
And I would say, my own alcohol use and drug use over the years, that as a teenager, I was just dabbling in it. It wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that it really accelerated.
I know addiction can be a bit hereditary, and with your father, you identified as an alcoholic.
And my brother.
And your brother?
Yeah.
Okay. Generations beyond them, do you think?
It's quite possible, quite likely. I really don't know enough.
So there's a predisposition to addiction?
I know a little bit more about my mother's family, my cousins, and there doesn't seem to be any substance abuse issues, but I never really learned much about my father's family.
So if we were to fast forward through your life, through your trials and challenges, what was your turning point for recovery? When did you say enough was enough?
Well, I was in Texas in 2015, and a Hayes County? Yeah, a Hayes County constable served me with papers from Itasca County in Minnesota for unpaid back child support, a court order, and at that point I had almost completely. My sister had continued to be a big part of my life over the years, but I'd almost burned that bridge too at this point, 6 years ago. And I just decided enough was enough. That I had nothing to lose by packing up and heading north, and I was correct in assuming that she would gladly, pay bus fare, wave bye-bye, be somebody else's problem from that point on. And that was the first step. And that was a big unknown. I didn't know what was going to happen next. Recovery was the furthest thing from my mind at that point. And arriving back in Minnesota, I'd been away for a good 15 years at that point, living in Texas and Arizona. And just doing that showed enough goodwill to the court that I was able to, I found a shelter in Grand Rapids, Minnesota that had an available bed. And within 2 weeks, got a job at the Dairy Queen there. And with my first paycheck, promptly started drinking again. Was kicked out of the shelter. And this was probably the biggest, the beginning of my recovery took place there. And I was at Abridgments on Main Street there in Grand Rapids on a dark and stormy Sunday night. It was either continue on the path I was on, or one of the ladies at the shelter had given me a card for a first call for help. So I called that number and got the number to Northland Recovery in Grand Rapids, and they took me in on a Sunday night.
Wow.
10 o'clock on a Sunday night.
So that was the arm that just kind of reached out to you and you took it.
Yeah.
I just think about the influence of people reaching in and reaching out. And of course, the receiver has to be willing and able and prepared to accept it. But so glad someone reached out to you, and that was a good time for you to start changing the course of your life.
Yeah.
Wow.
It would have been easy to have gone the other way. I still had some money in my pocket.
Yeah. But something in you must have decided, I'm a T in the road. I want to go down a different road. So of course, recovery is not easy.
No. And
but you became a college student.
7 months later, I left Hope House, high and medium and low intensity treatment at Hope House. I moved into a Peer House, and Dairy Queen took me back. And in thanks, I repeated what I had done previously. With my first paycheck, I bought another bottle, and that relapse lasted maybe a month before I was finally kicked out of Peer House and woke up in Northland Recovery's detox. And that was 5 years ago. That was May 20th, 2016.
Wow, pretty awesome. And painful, but also what a nice ending that continues to be part of your journey. I know we want to kind of wrap up with your story. We could spend a lot of time, and we know that you're graduating soon, so we want to get as much information from you and your story as we can. And I know that doing this for you is paying it forward because of for all appreciation for all the people who have reached out to you, and as well as your own strength within yourself. Can we fast forward and kind of end with, can you speak about, because this is a success story, but your story is not done by any means. It's a journey. And so can you speak about the challenges that you're struggling with your own mental health during this pandemic, and what's been kind of taken from you in terms of part of your recovery plan?
Well, I understood early on in treatment with the cognitive behavior therapy, which the counselors there completely turned me around my attitude towards psychology in general and the treatment specific. It previously thought rather contemptuously of the supposed soft science of psychology, voodoo science. I've done a complete turnaround on that. And I understood that my mental health would be my priority for the remainder of my life. I had to accept that and to be aware of it. And this last year has been rough. You might remember, Thaddeus, that I struggled terribly a year ago, and it continues. I still am. The almost forced isolation. I mean, it's putting me back in a place that I've been working to get out of, isolating. And now the pull is very strong to pull me back to the dark side, as it were.
So what are you doing for yourself for self-care and making sure that pull doesn't bring you completely down back to those depths?
What I pretty much I ended up reinventing the wheel on my own, coming out of treatment. From Grand Rapids, they found me a place in Mora at a place called Serenity Manor. It's a group residential housing. And what I did is I just started with the basics, with self-care. Went to or got physical therapy for my back. Started seeing a dentist. Got some much needed dental work done. Found a therapist, and then as taking those initial steps gave me the self-confidence, the assurance to look to larger things, and eventually, well, what am I going to do next? And I have considerable experience in the food service industry, but I couldn't see myself going, working at Hardee's. I could do it for a while, but I think that I could see that would be the road back to drinking.
Yeah,
definitely. And I ended up at Pine Technical Community College. There was the Timber Trails bus system ran a bus there from Mora to Pine City, so I was able to attend classes.
And then fast forward, you are just preparing to get an internship, which has been delayed because of the pandemic. So you're finding your patients.
I just want to add that my sister came up from Texas to attend my graduation from Pine Tech.
Yay. Awesome.
Yes.
How about when you graduate from SCSU?
Oh, I'm sure she will.
Yeah. So she continues to be that support.
Definitely.
So John, thank you. As I'm looking at the time, I want to be sure that we've got some time to hear from Thaddeus about the program that brought you to St. Cloud State and helped you along the way. So we really appreciate you speaking about from the depths of your heart, but your journey, your struggles, your triumphs, and then your struggles and your challenges and your successes, because it's never a straight line.
No.
Never is. But the important thing is that you keep moving forward. So thank you for all that you're sharing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
And keep up your efforts and all of and your grit and your tenacity and your commitment to yourself. So moving on to over to Thaddeus. So Thaddeus, could you share a little bit about the three things: our recovery community, your position in that, recovery resource center, and then as well as a new program I just learned this week is the TRS program here in this community as well, that I have a brochure on. All in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm the recovery coordinator on campus. I serve as a guide and mentor for the students. Like John, again, addiction does not discriminate. I want to make that clear. We have such a diverse group of students from 18 to 57 from various socioeconomic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. So I just want to make that clear, is this disease doesn't discriminate. Anyone can have it. And we were closed this summer, which was, I think, the hardest part of the job. I love being on campus and the energy of the students, and we were closed this summer and we had to do everything virtually. And we made it work. And then we opened our doors back up in August, and we haven't closed since. We've been really proud of that. We offer 5 support group meetings a week in our Recovery Resource Center, which is in Eastman Hall, the Center for Health and Wellness Innovation on campus. Both offered in person and virtually. So students can, and even community members can attend our meetings virtually and feel like they're in the room with us. So we're really proud of that. So yeah, we have our physical space, the Recovery Resource Center. We also offer on-campus housing for students in recovery looking for that kind of genuine college experience living on campus, but supported by other students in recovery. We're really proud to have been the first collegiate recovery program in the Upper Midwest to offer that residential-based program. We've been doing this since 2012, and we're one of only 133 in the country right now. So there are not many programs like this, but it's a growing movement in higher education, which we're really proud to be a best practice institution. As far as the recovery, you mentioned the Recovery Community Network. That's a new RCO we call Recovery Community Organization. It's kind of under the umbrella of Minnesota Recovery Connection, which is, they're all grassroots programs in the state that offer telephone support services, housing assistance. A lot of people in recovery have legal backgrounds, felonies. It's hard to get housing. They also offer some employment assistance as well. So it's really a great kind of one-stop shop in the community to, find out where the meetings are, get help, get acclimated in the community, find that ensemble, find that connection, because connection is the opposite of addiction. We can't be sitting around in our rooms doing nothing and expect us to feel, get better. We need to be out there. We need to be active in our recovery. We can't rest on our laurels. So yes, it's been a challenge. COVID has been a challenge because let's face it, isolation, boredom, these things they can trigger return to use or other unhealthy coping behaviors. And, I know for me, I'm a creature of habit. I think we all are. And especially us in recovery, we love our routines, like you said, Charlene. And when that was disrupted, it shook our foundation of recovery a bit. But, most of our students have really taken advantage of coming, to our space, staying connected with our events. I've worked really hard to have events in person for our students because human interaction, especially for us, we need that. We need that more than most. And so we've been successful, and our students have stuck around and, have done well.